Hey everybody, welcome to the ReCoop. I'm Cooper Daniels, and I'm a guy that knows a little about a lot. And today, it's my last day at South by Southwest. I'm talking to the founder of Headline Inc., Aaron Martinez. We are back in front of the Driscoll, and there's a man sunbathing without a shirt over there. It is all happening in Austin, folks. I love it. It feels great. How you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us here in Texas at South by Southwest. It's been a fantastic week. Got to meet a lot of the Algo fam. Just generally, it's been a fantastic time. Yeah.
I think so, right? Yeah, like I said, this is my last day. It's Friday in Austin. We've had a great week. We were at the Algo Ranch. We did everything, folks. We did it, and now we're here. And look, I wanted to take this opportunity. It's like my Barbara Walters moment with Aaron Martinez. I want to ask you all the things. Are you ready for that?
Absolutely. Nothing is off the table.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things that happened in Austin while we were here. You had what? You had Yieldly use, or say they're going to use Algo Burner. So I want to talk about that. Algo Cloud went live with everybody, right? So now anybody can use Algo Cloud. You have to stake 500 HDL to use, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't even have to stake it. It's almost just like a key, essentially. And this is actually, as far as I understand it, the first example of using a balance check securely. Basically, it's getting routed through the back end of the website, so it's actually like encrypting it and making it a secure process to use it as essentially like a login key.
Yeah. Okay, so what is Algo Cloud now, and what does it aim to be? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. So what it is right now is it's kind of like CoinMarketCap, but in an extremely early beta stage. So there's a lot of stuff that isn't finished yet. Some buttons don't work. There's actually a lot of things that don't work, but there's lots of that does work. What does work is extremely robust analytics for every token and liquidity pool on Tinyman. And it's both live and historical data with a full suite of different analytic charts for it. Going forward, though, it's going to be an entire DeFi suite for the Algorand and HDL community.
Yeah, cool. And then you're going to be a DeFi suite. So what does that exactly mean? Like, what do you see? What are some of these features that are going to set Algo Cloud apart from the other tools that are out there?
Sure. Okay, so. I'm trying to think of a great place to start, actually. Well, we can start with some of the features that are going to be integrated before all the DeFi stuff's done. So what we're working on right now, it should be ready in about a week or so, is we're going to have a community dashboard where you can essentially chat with other community members about every single token or liquidity pool. So there will be essentially a thread underneath every single one that you can actually have a conversation about with your fellow degens or community members. But we'll also be using this community dashboard as essentially the governance for the HDX decentralized exchange that we're building, which we are on testnet for right now. It is just a team testnet. We're going to be expanding it to an actual public beta in the next few weeks. What's going to make that interesting is that we actually have kind of a hybrid approach to a DEX. What we've noticed through our own experiences is that there's nothing more unfortunate than a pool being exploited and everybody just has to watch it be drained, right? Because the idea is that the contracts are immutable and there's nothing you can do about it once the exploits happened, unless you hire white hat hackers to go and do the draining before the drainers can drain it.
Right.
But we are going to take a different approach. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have an emergency shutoff for pools that there will be a governance mechanism essentially where DAO members can vote, in a basically rapid response kind of way if there is ever an exploit, to basically be able to shut a pool down and allow everybody to safely withdraw their money.
Right.
So that's going to be one of a few different security features that we're going to be integrating directly into our DEX that you don't typically see within the DeFi space, but that's kind of our approach to a lot of stuff in DeFi. It's take kind of a hybrid approach to it.
Right. So so the smart contract's going to basically have a kill switch.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. But it's going to be per pool, right? So let's say for example that a certain pool is getting exploited because of some kind of but obviously it's going to be very well audited. We'll probably get multiple audits some before we actually release it or anything like that. But sometimes there are mathematical irregularities in certain types of pools depending on the kinds of assets that are in the pool.
Right.
And you could end up having an exploit that affects one pool while the rest of a DEX can be completely safe. And so what you can actually do is you can actually freeze that individual pool so that it can be addressed in that way.
So, okay, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people out there that are going to be like, well, that's not decentralized. If you can turn it off, I mean, you said that you're going to create some sort of DAO infrastructure, so it'll at least be members of the DAO that will have to vote in a rapid response way, like you said. But what do you say to people out there that are like, well, that's not decentralized, that's just that's like a centralized thing?
Right, I like to say it's like 98% decentralized.
Right.
I think that when you have something that's purely decentralized, it can actually be pretty attractive to hackers to try to look for an exploit, because you know that once you find it, it can be extremely profitable because there's nothing anybody can do to stop you.
So you're sort of saying, like, I think that this will not incentivize people to actually try to hack your DEX.
Exactly. It could actually discourage people, specifically for the reason that, no matter how much time you put into it, it might end up being pretty fruitless at the end. And it kind of like why we're doing this is, not only is it good for the consumers, but it's really good for liquidity providers, right? Because it's really liquidity providers that are at the most risk in the event of an exploit or anything like that. So by basically giving liquidity providers a way to, securely and very, very safely, and know that, God forbid anything should happen, that there will be, a fallback in place that could, right the ship pretty quickly.
So you said it's an in-house test net. So how many people are part of the team, by the way?
Yeah, so we have 4 engineers and 4 community managers right now. So there are 8 total.
There's 8, including you.
Including me,
And Brian. Including Brian.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how about Wilder from Algo Gems?
So he's essentially like a 9th member, or as we like to call him, 8.5.
I just noticed on Twitter that he's just always wearing his HDL gear. So
well, it's actually great it's really great exposure for Algo Gems too.
Yeah.
We see Algo Gems as one of our main partners within the Algorand ecosystem, and it's really fantastic to actually have a member from the team here with us at South by Southwest. So Wilder is basically, he's a senior member within the Algo Gems team, which is one of the premier NFT marketplaces on Algorand.
That's right.
And he actually joined us and the ReCoop here for the week in Austin, Texas for South by Southwest. And that includes everything from, comedy showcases to
they went and saw
Young Thug concerts.
I missed the
Algo
Young
Ranch,
Thug concert. Algo Ranch. Run DMC. How fun was that?
Run DMC, and then we got the Reach Summit as well.
Yeah, so no, I'm joking because Wilder's in the room. So that's why I'm making that joke. All right. So, So you have Algo Cloud. Anybody can use it right now. It's like a early coin market cap, but there's going to be a DEX included. There's going to be wallet integration. There's going to be all the things. I mean, there's already wallet integration when you sign up, right?
Yeah. So we already did a lot of that ourselves, and part of the reason we're able to do this stuff so efficiently is because we basically built the entire stack ourselves. Because the work we do for the foundation, we built our own SDK, and we built a lot of the different mechanisms to integrate all of these different things that allow us to iterate really quickly. So that's how we've been able to put it together so quickly.
And then Algo Burner. I saw that last week you guys announced this. I thought this came out of nowhere. I had no idea it was coming, and I thought it was a really cool idea. And then what was it, yesterday or the day before, Yieldly announced that they're going to be using it. So what's going on there? How does that work? Like how do people know that when they use Algo Burner, their tokens or NFTs are actually being burned?
That's a great question, and there's actually a really practical reason that we built it, because we needed a secure, immutable, permissionless system to properly dispose of leftover NFTs from our Forum Asterisk collection. Essentially what we do is we mint way more than we need every time we do a mint for them. We usually mint 999 each, just because it's just an easy round number, and then whatever's left over we end up burning after 72 hours. But burning traditionally just meant sending it back to the seed address, and then it's just supposed to stay there forever. That is a terrible solution for burning NFTs, right? You really want to make sure that not only do you, the creator, know that they are securely and permanently burned, but you want to make sure that you do it in a way that's really easy for the average layperson within the community to also be able to understand that. So basically what we've done with Algo Burner, it's actually pretty innovative. Essentially what you're doing is you are deploying an app with a TL5 smart contract that essentially creates a address that you then opt in to the asset that you're going to send it. and then you are going to fund it, of course. You're going to do like half an algo, essentially. And then what you're going to do is you're going to send the assets to that address that was created by the app, and then you're going to be deleting the app. Right? And the reason you do the delete app stage at the very end of it is because that is a really, really good on-chain signifier of the immutability and the irrevocability of the action that you've done.
Right.
And so what it allows us to do is it allows us to really efficiently dispose of NFTs and to be able to provide really concrete proof that all of those assets were destroyed in a really immutable, permissionless way. And because you deploy a new app every single time you use it, it allows any community member to essentially be able to use it for whatever they need to dispose of, and to be able to use the same, essentially, basically you need 2 transactions as proof that the assets were completely burned. The first transaction you're going to be giving your community is the asset transfer transaction, basically sending your asset to the address that was created by the app in the smart contract. And then the second transaction you give them is the app delete action. Because once the app is deleted, the assets are irrevocably, permanently lost forever.
So
now it's important to note, that if there is a token that still has clawback on it, for example, you can actually still claw back those assets. So, so just be mindful in the event that there are, ASAs that are being used that still have that enabled. If they were to use this, for example, we're actually going to be probably adding a feature that actually won't allow you to use it if you're trying to send it an asset that still has clawback enabled. Right. But for right now, if somebody, was to send it, I'm trying to think of an asset that...
I think Smile has clawback, don't they?
Well, something like that, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if they do or not, but...
Yeah, exactly. So no matter where you send a asset with clawback enabled, you could still claw it back.
Got it.
But for your average asset and NFTs, anything like that, it's like, one of the best solutions.
So once an app is deleted, there's no way to, bring it back.
Yeah, it's gone forever.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Well, personally, I think that's a great idea, because every time I hear, okay, they're burning, I'm like, well, where are they sending this? Like, right? Does that exist? I mean, Ethereum has like a burner, like stuff like this.
I am sure they do.
Yeah.
I think most chains have something like this, but
Yeah.
whether or not they have it in such a simple solution to use,
right.
It's also trustless. Trustless is the really important part. Is like, so if you use one of the alternative options, there's a high probability you're going to use an option where a third party is actually going to be deploying a smart contract. And then the question is, how do you know that, you as the layperson, not you as the burner, how does the average layperson know that somebody in that chain doesn't have access to the mnemonic that could essentially recover the assets that were sent to that burn address?
Well, exactly.
With this solution, the average layperson can feel confident that there is no way to recover the assets that were sent there.
Right. So now you need Algo Explorer and everybody to actually adjust the total supply, right?
No, that's where it gets super innovative. So once the solution gets integrated with Yieldly or some of our other partners, then we'll be able to go to the essentially the indexers like Algo Explorer and be like, we'd like to see if there's a way to add this into, basically be able to flag these kinds of transactions so that'll actually be represented in the total supply.
Yeah,
that's that's when you've made it, with something like this. Yeah.
So, okay. So we hear all of these things. There's been out in the world, there's been some headline, what's the word? Headline. FUD. That's the right word. Yeah, there's been some headline FUD out there, right? Mm-hmm. And so, okay, so I hear this. You're making a DEX. You have Algo Cloud. You have Algo Burner, Algo Glyph. You have Headline News. You have Forum Social Network. You have Pipeline UI. You have, friggin', I don't know, a farm. I have no idea what else you're doing. Do you raise animals in any way?
Not yet.
Okay.
But
okay. There's no headline farm.
There's been conversations
about dairy farm.
Well, there's been conversations about creating some kind of DAO governance for livestock or something. Not that we would spearhead something.
Oh, that's
like
another
that,
thing.
But we would be willing to participate in that.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
So and DAO voting. So what do you say to people that why are you trying to do so many things? Why don't you focus on a couple of things and do that right? And and what's with the spreading yourself so thin type of
Right. So first of all, and here's something that's really important to think about. So And this is really interesting. One of the conversations, or one of the things I hear a lot when I talk to people that aren't really familiar with what we do, is basically something along these lines. So, how is it possible that y'all's team, as small as it is, can produce at such a high level when a lot of other projects can barely get a single product out?
Right.
And so basically there's a really simple solution for why it's possible for us to be able to do all this, and it's because we built the entire stack ourselves, right? So typically if you're a project and you're going to be building a decentralized application, you have to basically look at what's available and you have to kind of modify all of it for your specific use case, which means you got to be able to modify the SDKs, you got to be able to modify the smart contracts or the components, or whatever kind of, coding library you're using in order to be able to create that application, right? So that's the general production pipeline for a decentralized application that a different project would have to do. But for Headline, we've built the entire stack ourselves, because what we do with the Algorand Foundation is essentially developer tooling. We've built the Pipeline SDK, which is an SDK specifically to create decentralized applications, specifically for our own component libraries, right? So basically all the building blocks that you need to build decentralized applications with, we've actually built ourselves. So now it's just a question of iterating on top of the building blocks that we've already created, and we can actually do that really, really efficiently and quickly.
Right.
Not only that, but because they're decentralized applications, a lot of them essentially run themselves, right? All we have to do is basically create it once, and then it'll work forever, which is a really cool thing to be able to do. So part of the reason we do so much is, it's a lot of fun, right?
Yeah.
So this is a new industry. We're kind of at the bleeding edge of innovation on it. Sometimes, depending on what we're working on, I'll get with my guys and be like, hey, what's something cool we can put together over the weekend, just for fun? Like, there's no business model or anything like that. It's just something like we like to do for fun. Yeah. It's also great for the community. It's great for PR and community outreach and everything like that. But there is absolutely an overarching strategy to what we're doing. A really comparable company to what we're essentially trying to build is Consensus on Ethereum. Basically, what Consensus has been able to do since the very early days of Ethereum is get really involved with building a lot of the core building blocks of what Ethereum is today, and then be able to scale that into basically touching every single different part of the blockchain industry within the Ethereum space. That's kind of what we're trying to do as well. So instead of thinking small from the beginning, we had a big plan, and we're making steps every day to make that actually reality, and we're having incredible success so far. That's the coolest part.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like now you guys have transitioned or pivoted to building these tools. I mean, is the Unbiased News Network, is that still a priority, or is that just in the longer term at this point? Like, it seems like that's what was the first idea, and maybe it's not exactly the emphasis anymore.
Right, so we're still going to do that, and this is something that people will learn about me, is that I never ever give up or abandon things, right? So people talk about a pivot, we don't believe in the word pivot, right? Because we don't pivot, we just add on to the mission, essentially.
Right.
And there's a really simple reason for why we're building everything that we are right now, instead of specifically focusing on an unbiased news platform.
Right.
And because basically when we first wanted to get a foundation grant, we wrote a 15-page paper about creating a unbiased news platform on the Algorand blockchain. And about 10 minutes later, the foundation let me know that wasn't really something that they were going to be able to fund or something that they were looking to fund. But then, having consecutive conversations with them, we found that there was a real need within the Algorand ecosystem for developer tooling, specifically a React component library.
What's a React component library?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, React component libraries is a library that allows you to use a tiny little bit of code to be able to do more complex functions.
Right.
A simple idea is that a button, right? A button that you see, you click on it, it does an action, right? So you have a button and then it has an action and a trigger attached to it, which can connect with other things. As a React component, you essentially have an HTML tag that says button, uppercase inside it. But with ours, it actually has hard-coded Algorand functionality directly into that little tiny snippet, right? So it's just essentially an HTML tag that says button that says, it would have it could be Algo Signer button, right? And then if you press it, it'll automatically be connected to the Algo Signer wallet, which would allow you to interact with, whatever your dApp is doing. Or you could have the My Algo button. Right. So it's extremely simple ways to embed different kinds of functionality into your decentralized application.
Got it.
We never built a component library when we, found the real need for it. So basically, we had to teach ourselves how to build one. But once we did that, we realized that wow, it's so easy and efficient to build on top. Because like when we first built it, we didn't work with smart contracts.
Right.
Okay? So that's another important thing to realize. So we only recently started working with smart contracts because the initial React component library was purely a way of interacting with the smart contracts or the SDK that was already out there.
Right.
But as we continued to iterate and build on top of what we were doing, we started to work more and more smart contracts into now where we have the whole SDK and essentially a library of smart contracts that we've created and all of the components and everything that we need like that to build all these different applications on top of.
Got it. So basically what you initially did was build all these tools that are making it a lot easier for you to build all these other things.
Yes, so much easier.
So this is like a very kind of actual natural growth for you guys.
It is, absolutely.
Right. And so let's talk about this whiteboard. I saw a post on Twitter, right? And this apparently this whiteboard never changes, Aaron.
Oh, it does
What's
not.
going on with the whiteboard, bro?
No, it doesn't. So there's a whiteboard that one of my guys, Brian, put together for our strategy for the Algo Astros collection.
Right.
When we first created it, and it's really cool to like look at how much it's grown from the original plan because of the idea. We had a whiteboard where we put all these different ideas on it. For different types of Astros we were going to make and for what the initial, I think it was like a 60 or 90 day roadmap was going to be for the whiteboard. And we kind of laid it all out there. And it's a really cool thing to kind of have as a backdrop right now.
Yeah.
It's not actively changed. I'm not really big on whiteboards personally, but it's a great brainstorming thing whenever I have my guys over.
Yeah.
We've been working remote a lot lately, so it hasn't been updated much lately.
Got it.
It was most recently updated actually with some of our itinerary for South by Southwest. It wasn't a fully fledged itinerary, unfortunately, but
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I know, whatever.
What are you gonna do? South by Southwest, there's a lot going on.
Thank you for humoring me with that.
Yeah.
So speaking of the Astros, I noticed is it called Moon Raider? You guys are also creating a game. And which is going to kind of gamify your Astros as well, right?
It's called Moon Raiders.
Moon Raiders, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what's going on there?
So this is a really novel approach to creating a staking based play to earn game. Essentially, and we kind of created by accident. And so basically, we're making staking contracts in TL5 for what we were planning to do.
Right.
But as we were going through the process, we were like, wouldn't it be interesting if we kind of put a limit on the way people could interact with these instead of just allowing people to do everything? Well, what if we didn't allow people to do everything? Okay, and they're like, okay, well, what are some interesting rules we could set up for a staking smart contract? And so the two things that we thought would be really interesting would be, one, making it so that the total amount staked could never be more than the amount that's been supplied for the staking pool. So essentially, let's say you have 250,000 tokens in a staking pool. The most that anybody could have, the most that everybody combined could have staked in that staking pool would be 250,000 tokens. All right, so that's one thing. Okay, well, why would you create something like that? Well, it can actually lead to some other interesting interactions, right? So first of all, the way we created the contract for this is that you can actually continue to add more into the pool. Okay. As the staker, you can continue to deposit more into the staking into the provider part of the pool, and so that's one of the things. And then I was like, okay, well, let's make another interesting rule. What if you could make it so that each person that was in the pool could only do a certain amount per day? And you can actually set it up so that there's essentially a timer where you can only stake so much per day. They're like, all right, so what if we have it so that each participant can stake 1 basis point per day? Okay, this is getting interesting. This is kind of gamifying it a little bit now, right? So let's say you have 1,000 participants in a staking pool that has 1 million tokens in it, and each of those participants can essentially contribute 1 basis point of staked token into that pool per day.
Right.
And then basically the way it works is that your reward is essentially a percentage of the total staked amount that you have in the pool as well. So essentially the more you stake into the pool, the higher your percentage of the pool will be.
Right.
We're like, okay, this is super interesting. Now we've basically got something that has kind of built-in gamification where there can actually be a competitive edge that you can have, especially since there are clear parameters around how often you can stake and how much you can stake. So basically extrapolating that out just a little bit, we basically are going to make it so that your avatar for this game, because there actually is going to be a very, very minimal UI for it, is actually going to be your Algo Astro. Basically making a long-term utility for the NFT collection.
Nice.
So basically, you're going to be able to, only people that have the Algo Astros or a mutant Astro, essentially, is what you'll be able to create with some of our other collections.
Oh, you guys are doing mutants.
Well, so basically, a mutant Astro will have to be a collection of different form Astro collections, or, there's some different specific rules that we're going to have for it.
Okay.
But essentially, once you have one of these, you'll basically have, like, indefinite access to this pool, and only people that can have these can participate in this game. And each day, you can actually increase your stake by 1 basis point to have an even bigger percentage of the pool. If you don't stake one in for a single day, then you're actually going to go down the ranking, because we're actually going to have a visual UI of the ranking of who's in first place, who's in second, as far as what percentage of the pool they have.
Right. So if you start from the beginning and you continuously do it every day, and then it's like a race to the top, and then you're going to have a larger and larger. But then what if you pull out? What happens?
Then you lose your entire percentage, and you go back to zero.
And you go back to zero.
And then everybody else's position is actually going to increase because yours decreased. So now you have a really interesting idea of, wow, so the fact that what you do is actually going to impact what other people's positions in the pool are.
Right.
And basically what you're going to be able to do, so remember, a lot of people have more than one Astro. Some people have like more than 10 of them.
Yeah.
You could potentially put all of your Astros in the pool, but you actually have to manually increase your stake per day in order to be able to increase the position in the pool. Right? So if you miss one day, you can actually lose your stake position. So like you think about interesting things that people are going to be able to do as far as like swapping people with different positions if you want to get to different points of the pool.
Right.
We're also going to potentially have side pools where it's like once you hit a certain percentage, you can actually unlock a side pool.
Oh, this is cool.
And then there can be power-ups for your NFTs as well. And most of this is going to be done in a super novel way. And most of this is already finished, right?
Right.
So basically what we have to do is we actually have to just finish, because I've tested this quite a bit already. Because the smart contract itself works pretty damn well. But basically we have to make the user experience part of it finished. So we need to hire somebody that has a little bit of experience with smart contract game development to basically create a UI that shows basically like a 2D visualization of essentially a roadmap of where, and be able to represent each Astro's avatar on this like essential roadmap so that people can
so there's
have,
like a
push
video game
notifications.
look to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like kind of like a 80s style arcade game kind of look with the roadmap, and then you can actually be able to see the positions of your competitors in the pool, and then there's gonna be like a live chat element to it as well, so that you can actually like have conversations with the people that you're competing against, and it's gonna be kind of a dynamic, interesting thing that we're gonna do.
That's really cool. That's really cool. All right, so what are we missing here? So I mean, okay, so you got the Moon Raiders, you got the what else? What did I not bring up?
Oh, there's so much.
I know. That's what.
Algo Chat. So we released Algo Chat 2 days before Algo Burner.
Are you saying Algo Chat or Algo Chad?
So we've done an Algo Chat. There are discussions about an Algo Chat.
I like Algo Chat.
We can do an Algo Chat.
What does Algo Chat do? Like what does that smart? What does that DAP do?
Well,
just
essentially
like insult you.
Well, essentially, what we probably want to do with that is we'd basically be tokenizing a internet personality, and then you could actually find a real life personality that could take on the persona of the internet personality you've tokenized, and then people could actually.
This is Algo Chat.
Potentially.
Yeah, I like this. See, you
can
basically.
Then people could, depending if you want to tokenize it as in an ASA or as an NFT, you could have people interact with the Algo Chat personality.
There's literally nothing I can throw at you that you won't figure out some angle on it, right?
If it can be done, we can build it.
Okay, so what's Algo Chat?
Yeah, great question. So Algo Chat, what is really interesting about this is it is in a really, really like rudimentary sense, it is a interesting on-chain data storage solution. But what it is on the UI side for an actual user is it's actually a way to have actual conversations with people purely on-chain. Right. So basically what you do is you actually deploy a chatting app, and each person has their own app. And then you would actually be able to opt in to other people's chatting apps. And then there's a UI that'll actually show the chats that you do. Like you're using Rocket Chat or Slack or something like that, with profile pictures that are on chain too. So you have your username, you have your profile picture, and you have the chat. It's all done completely on chain in a complete trustless way.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there's really interesting potential for it to be used for governance for DAOs, which would be really interesting because you'd actually be able to document your entire, like, when you're doing your governance proposals, when you're going to be doing votes. So it's something that we could integrate really seamlessly with Algo Vote.
So it's different in the sense of like a social network like forum or whatever. It's in the sense that you can make it like a boardroom, right? So if there's a board to a DAO and they're having a big meeting, they can have this all on chain through Algo Chat.
Yes.
And make it more official, basically.
Absolutely. We haven't tested the upper limit, but we think you'll be able to do over 60. So you could have up to like 60 people chatting at the same time.
Wow.
Within one one like main application that's holding all the different addresses.
Right.
Apps for that's opted into them.
Okay, so Algo Chat, what else?
Yeah. Okay. So those are our two most recent ones. We released those on Wednesday and Friday. So Algo Burner being released on Friday, that's actually interesting. So I was actually supposed to be here on Friday.
Yeah.
But I actually showed up a day late because I was like, I have to finish this first. I don't know why, but I think it's gonna be awesome.
It was.
I had no idea how positive the response was gonna be.
Yeah.
I did it because I thought it'd be super cool to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it was gonna have so much instant utility for everybody else.
I was gonna say, this is because the last time we talked, you were kind of like, you were super excited about Algo Glyph. You were like, this thing is awesome, and everyone's gonna love it. And you're like, oh, and you were kind of like, oh, I was a little like, the enthusiasm wasn't there that like you expected.
I mean, it was for some of our partners, like Algo Gems, for example, integrated it into their minting process, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And like we talked about, like I think with like sports and like athletes and stuff like that, I think it's an incredible tool for that, right?
So like getting adoption for Algoglyph is going to be a lot bigger of a community outreach effort than some of these other tools,
right?
Specifically because it's not something that people are going to have a lot of experience on, like thinking about even, right?
Yeah.
Like using on-chain data storage to be able to create signatures is a really kind of unique concept that people need to be kind of like walked through to kind of understand. Yeah, so I mean, people are using it already. We think it's super cool.
Yeah, no, but I guess my point was, and then you did Algo Burner, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing it, and then you put it out there, and then it's like, whoa, wait, people are really excited about this. It's just kind of funny to me how it's like, it's hard, you just keep on building things, and it's kind of hard to gauge the response.
Yeah, you never know which things are going to be really popular and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of the stuff that I think is going to be like the most cool are just like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But then some of them are like, whoa, that's like crazy.
Yeah.
Algo Burner is definitely one of the ones that got a massive community response. Part of the reason we do them is specifically for community outreach. It's really cool to provide useful tools for the community to be able to use. And it's also a great way to introduce people to the tech that we're building and how they can use it in their own applications.
For sure.
What was it you were saying?
I don't even know, but so okay. So
other tools, right? What we were demoing, and everything for Algorand, we just finished our second grant with the foundation for Pipeline UI, which is our developer tooling.
Right.
This is like the more primitives type stuff, right?
Yeah,
and we actually
which you actually kind of presented on Monday at the Algorand.
I was pointing to a couple different use cases for some of the stuff in it, but there's a couple more applications that we built in that as well. One of the things we built that was like super cool, at least we think it is. This is one of those things this is a good example of one of those things where the initial response is like really, really hard to gauge, because what we built is a Reach boilerplate for Pipeline UI. And what I mean by that is, like, if you go on our website right now, you can actually deploy Reach smart contracts on the front end of a website without having to go into a development environment. That is a really, really big deal for people that work with Reach, because basically there are a few steps that you have to do to set up a development environment to work with Reach. Right, and you have to know a fair bit about coding in order to be able to get to that stage.
Yeah.
But if you go to our website, you can actually deploy them directly from the front end without having to know anything about coding. And what this allows you to do is it allows you basically be able to look at and analyze the smart contract logic as it's happening, because we actually visualize the essentially the console log that you would see, but we actually visualize on the front end for 3 or 4 different Reach smart contracts that do different sorts of applications. Like, so one of them is going to be essentially like a betting game where you're actually like betting against a computer AI, and a lot of it's automated, and it's really interesting logic as far as the way that like the bets are determined and how much, depending on who's winning or losing, how that's going to impact the overall score. You get to actually see this all visualized.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's also an Oracle Reach contract that we have on there that's really interesting, and it actually like shows you on-chain data storage and how it's changing with each consecutive, essentially like loop that it's doing. And there's a few really different, interesting smart contracts that we have on there for Reach.
Yeah, I mean, so we're at, I think the Reach Summit here starts tonight. Are you guys going to be attending that?
Absolutely, yeah. We are definitely be attending that. We want to build a bigger like team of developers that work exclusively with Reach as well.
Yeah.
Within the like headline like core teams. So we're going to be looking for every opportunity to network with other Reach
people,
developers there too.
What about Reach? What is their response to this tool that the boilerplate?
Yeah, definitely. No, Chris thought it was super cool. I don't know if anybody from their team has worked extensively with it yet, but they've seen it in action and they think it's super cool. And like basically the guys that do like Reach curriculum and stuff, they're like, oh, this is like gonna be incredibly helpful, right?
Yeah.
Especially for new developers or developers that are kind of unfamiliar with blockchain technology, because it's so much easier to learn how something works when you can actually see it working and then kind of like unpack it, right? You can see how it's functioning, and then you can kind of like take it apart piece by piece.
Got it.
And that's what it allows you to do.
And this cotton is actually very, very nice.
Oh, the Pima? Yes, we got the Pima cotton. We got the shirts.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, this is the deal. So I'm losing my voice. Can you
already?
Can you
we
guys?
Just got started.
I know. Didn't we just
start
start
20 minutes?
Has it only been 20 minutes? So all right. So Algo Burner, Yieldly is using it. They're burning their tokens. Yieldly has been under. I know you're partnered up with Yieldly.
Yeah.
And Yieldly's been, catching some flack lately. I guess the website is back up today, Friday, but it's been down. It hasn't been working right. Or what are you thinking there? Like, or as you look at the ASA landscape in general, it's been not the easiest time. Like, what are you seeing?
Right.
What do you think?
Okay, so let's step back and talk real quick about how this got started. So we essentially set up a stake and rewards program with Yieldly as like one of our first major Algorand ecosystem partners.
Right.
They set up like 3 different pools for people to be able to stake HDL in.
Right.
An HDL pool with their latest Till 5 smart contract, as well as a Yieldly HDL pool and a Yieldly HDL liquidity pool.
Got it.
Now the Till 5 contract that they were using for this, there's something that happened with it where I'm trying to think about the easiest way to explain this in layman's terms. The math can get very, very complicated when you're doing staking smart contracts. Now, unless you've worked specifically with staking smart, it's a very unique kind of smart contract.
Right.
And when unless you've worked with them, it's kind of hard to understand exactly what is going on with this math. But basically what can happen is you end up with things called rounding errors, because you have to basically turn these long strings of decimals into whole numbers in order to be able to make these smart contracts function, right? Because you have really limited storage within a smart contract as well.
Right.
Within this specific Till 5 smart contract, there was a bug that was exploited by a bot.
Yeah, a math bot. We hear all about all over social media. Math bot.
Math bot, right? There was a math bot, essentially.
Kept on doing math.
Whether or not it was a bot originally discovered this is, we'll find out.
Right.
But basically, what it allowed you to do is where you could have a tiny little bit of HDL staked in the pool, and then you could withdraw it, and then if you were to restake that tiny little bit in the pool and withdraw it again, you would get 100 HDL tokens, right? So basically, when you had that tiny little bit in the pool and withdrew it, it essentially allowed for a rounding error to happen when trying to recalculate the rewards, because they're auto compounding rewards, right? So you have multiple layers of math complexity that allowed this to happen. Whether it happened by accident or somebody was looking for something to exploit is something that we'll find out once Yieldly finishes their investigation.
Right.
But we were working, Headline was working with our own staking smart contract exploration for Moon Raiders that are TL5 staking smart contracts at the exact same time that this was first discovered. So we like knew almost better than anybody, you know, how something like this could happen.
Right.
And there was, there were over 4 million HDL staked in this pool when this started. And the amount that could have potentially been stolen by the hackers is like 1 million HDL tokens or something like that. I don't know the exact numbers. Once YLD finishes their investigation, we'll know exactly how extensive the damage is.
Right.
But it created an incredibly complex situation to investigate. And the reason for that is because with the Tiny Man exploit, which we were also like right in the middle of somehow, basically all that...
You guys are really like right there. It's like
two for two
never,
now, right?
Never incentivize LP.
Oh, yeah, right? It's like we can't seem to win.
Well, isn't...
these staking things.
So... I guess to warn everybody, you also have a partnership with Humble Swap,
right?
Are you going to have any incentive?
There is. We're actually...
so we can all anticipate the hack.
Let's hope there's not another one.
No,
but if there, God forbid anything was to happen, like I said, we take our ecosystem partnerships really seriously, and we like to help in the investigation of any issues as they arise.
Right.
Now, with where was I at? Right before
that, we were talking about YLD, and you were talking about how they were draining the HDL.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So with the Tiny Man exploit, I think, as far as I understand it, almost all of it was done manually, right? Mm-hmm. So there were no bots to automate the process of exploiting these pools.
Right.
So because it was manually done, there was a very limited paper trail that you would need to fully investigate every single transaction that was associated with this. Mm-hmm. Because the YLD hack was done by bots, the number of transactions that may need to be investigated is into the hundreds of thousands.
Right.
Because there was a point towards the end where there were hundreds and hundreds of bots that kept, replicating themselves and replicating the hack over and over and over and over and over again, to the point, and it was compounding on itself, just like the odd compounding the pool.
Yeah.
Because of that, it's a much more extensive investigation that needs to happen in order for you to be able to, precisely determine the extent of the damage.
Right.
That's really that's like a complicated thing to do in the best of situations.
Yeah.
They are making excellent progress on it so far. They haven't quite finished it yet, their investigation into it.
Yeah.
But we've been super supportive, and we've actually, helped them get multiple reports done from different third parties that we've been working with as well to help them finish fully investigating this thing. And what we've been basically trying to explain to the community is that this is an extremely unique, complicated investigation that they're doing. So it takes a little bit longer than everybody might be thrilled about.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that this happened during a market downturn. So we were already at peak FUD.
Yeah.
We were getting a lot of FUD, and then a lot of that spilled over. And now YLD's been getting a ton of it, and it's also just an opportunity. This is what I keep trying to tell our community. This is an opportunity for us to show everybody else, what kind of a community we are, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you're down or when other people are down, and how you respond to that says a lot about your character.
Yeah.
So that's just what I've been trying to get everybody to remember. While their frustrations and everything else is completely founded, and they have every right to be mad, they have every right to, but it's just finding a middle ground and recognizing that the people on the other side of the screen are also humans that, need encouragement and support as well, because there's nothing worse than having a really hard day, trying to do anything with coding or anything like that, and then you go on social media and you just get hit by a wall of toxic comments and hatred and all this other stuff, and it can just really compound again, right, on top of itself.
Well, I will say, I have noticed that, in my long life, as people's money starts to disappear, they get irritated. And you know what happens? They start to lash out. But and I get it. But at some point, we're a smaller ecosystem. We're growing. There's so much happening. It's you do want to support the creators. YLD built a really cool product, and they were the first ones to do it. So I think it's the right move to be supporting them and trying to help them and help them get to the other side of this.
Not only that, but let's look at this from a purely practical perspective, right? Forget about headline. Forget about. YLD's track record or not, they have some of the best tech in the game still, right? I don't know if people that are watching this have seen their 30-minute alpha of their NFT marketplace, but it's freaking spectacular. It's like the tech that created it is like miles ahead of most of the competition.
Right.
And the same goes with the.
Why aren't they releasing it?
The same goes with like the pipeline for their smart contracts that they do for staking. Their integrated platform that's behind it as well.
Yeah.
So they have like they've got a great engineering team and they got some of the best tech in the game. They have a clear roadmap that they're on right now. There is, I think they've adjusted it a little bit in the last, I think, 2 or 3 months. But yeah, they're in great shape. They've had a couple speed bumps, but they're gonna be fine. So we have like total confidence in them.
Well, that's good. I'm sure a lot of people like to hear that. So Humble Swap, I think, is going live on the 28th, if I remember correctly. So what's going on there? What does HDL's move and partnership look like with Humble
Definitely.
Swap?
So we are going to be working with Humble for a major liquidity provider incentive. Basically, any HDL holder that wants to provide liquidity on Humble Swap will get, I think it's like 250 HDL tokens for every 1,000 staked for a 60-day period.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're gonna get a 25% reward on top of the fee pool that you get for being a liquidity provider.
So over only 60 days, you're getting 25%. So that's something like what? 25 times 6 is 100. That's like 150%.
On top of
all the transaction fees or whatever else you're going to get. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's something for everybody to look forward to.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We're really excited to be working with Humble, and we're going to be partnering with them not just on this liquidity pool, but also as far as like integrating their analytics with Algo Cloud and their APIs once they get all that off the ground running, and look for all kinds of different opportunities to partner with them on all of their different DeFi products as they get ready for their mainnet launch and everything.
No, that's fantastic. All right, so what else do we got here? What are you thinking?
Well, we can talk about interesting new projects that are coming up.
Yeah.
We're excited about. Other projects.
You just want to talk about the thing.
Yeah, it's cool to talk about other people's projects as well.
Yeah, what are you excited about? I like that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that we discovered is happening with music NFTs. Yeah, there's a couple of really interesting projects. Dequency is one of them.
Yeah, that was awesome.
We got to meet the team from Dequency, and they're going to be releasing a really interesting platform soon that's going to be doing some really innovative stuff with music licensing.
With licensing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And how they're going to be integrating some really interesting community incentives to really promote the community involvement within the entire platform. That we're really interested to see.
For sure. And then there was obviously the song that owns itself that moved from Ethereum over to Algorand with the DMC song. So that's also really cool. What else?
So basically, Algorand that we had here at South by Southwest was a really, really good introduction to the Algorand ecosystem really maturing. Because we saw the initial DeFi space kind of getting built out a little bit. Now we're getting to see a lot of these blue chip projects that are basically going to be adopting Algorand as the blockchain to build on.
Right.
So what we saw was a lot of stuff with music NFTs. LimeWire also just announced that they're going to be pivoting to an NFT marketplace, and they selected Algorand to build this marketplace on.
Right.
And as far as I understand, they have significant capital to expend in this enterprise. There's also going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be happening with bridges. So basically, Algo Ranch here is kind of like it's kind of like part 2 of Algo Ranch from ETH Denver.
Yeah.
And at ETH Denver, Stacy, the new head of the Algorand Foundation, she announced 2 really exciting new Algorand Foundation grant programs. One of them is basically a grant program to incentivize building bridges with the EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, and the AVM. Yeah. Which should see all kinds of innovative stuff getting built.
Of course.
And then there's another grant that they're doing for specifically for developer tooling and debugging and everything like that. So
to making it easier.
Yeah. So we've been working. Yeah. So another thing we've been building. So we've been building something called Stacktrace, which is a TL debugging application that works directly on the front end. that allows you to see the entire stack as you're doing smart contract construction.
Yeah.
So we've been putting that together for them.
By the way, that grant for making developer tools that makes it easier to build on Algorand, that seems like this right up your alley, right? I mean, that is what you guys do.
Right, exactly.
You're creating tools that make it easier to develop on Algorand.
Exactly, yeah. So this new grant that they're doing specifically, this $10 million developer tooling grant, is really more focused on smart contract construction and debugging than it is on front-end tooling.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's great that we're also doing all this work with smart contract construction debugging, right?
Yeah.
So it's like perfect that we're doing that as well because, to date, as far as I understand, we're still the only builder of front-end tooling within the Algorand ecosystem.
Right.
But having that additional piece of doing everything with smart contracts is also really valuable, especially as people are trying to learn about whether they're using whichever kind of construction language you're using to put together the smart contracts, especially with any kind of EVM compatibility. Like I had a call with my guys the morning after the new bridge grant thing was announced. I was like, hey, so what do you guys think about putting together a bridge next week, right? Because we could do something like that. We could do it.
Yeah.
They said absolutely not. We need to finish everything else we're working on first.
Okay. So you do have people. You don't have just yes men around you.
No. I'm
teasing.
I have very sober senior engineers that
are like,
oftentimes
no,
tell
we're
me
not doing
that,
bridge.
we have a backlog, right?
Yeah.
That's why we got Algo Chat and Algo Burner. They were both in our backlog when I suggested this, and they're like, no, we need to finish what we're working on now. Stacktrace is another thing we're already working on.
Right.
Before we start integrating Solidity into our smart contract construction and everything. So come on. It sounds like so much fun though. Right. So yes, I am.
But you want state proofs and everything to be on mainnet before, or state proofs to be fully active before you build a bridge anyways.
Well,
right?
It just depends. Initially what we'll be doing is purely experimental to find innovative ways to get smart contracts to be able to interact with each other.
Right.
Because not everything required for bridging has to involve really complex. There's really simple novel solutions to bridging as well as complicated ones. So the first thing that we would do if we tackled this, which they have not given me the all clear on yet. I'm still telling come on, let's build a bridge. Okay. It just sounds like a great headline bridge or pipeline bridge.
You like it. A pipeline is a perfect name for a bridge.
Well, they haven't given me the all clear on it yet, but if I can talk them into it, I think it would be really cool to even just take a look at. I mean
it's obviously something a little more sophisticated, and there's a vault on each.
Not necessarily. It depends. No. So that's your traditional way of building a bridge,
right.
Where you actually wrap tokens. But
right.
With all the new innovations that are coming out, especially what the guys at Rand Labs are doing.
Right. C3.
Basically, exactly. Getting smart contracts to actually be able to talk to each other. There's some really interesting stuff there. Crap.
What were you going to say? You were talking about trying to get your guys to do bridges and them being like, no, we got too much.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because basically my philosophy for everything is how hard could it be?
Yeah.
Right? Even if I know nothing about it, I'm like, come on, how hard could it be? And so I do need those sober minds in the room to be like, that is not something we're going to be tackling because that's much more complicated than you think it is.
Yes.
So
especially when you see how vulnerable those things can be. So they really need to be bulletproof.
And we really try to make sure that we do security first with everything that we're building.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we want is for any of our users or devs that are building with our tech to ever be in a situation where anything we build would be compromised.
Right.
But I just a lot of the reason I like to build stuff is because it's really exciting to build stuff that I've never seen before that nobody's done. So them saying, oh, we want people to build stuff that nobody's ever built before. I was like, oh, that sounds super cool.
So how close do you think this it was HDX, right?
HDX. Yeah.
How close do you think that is to testnet, the mainnet, or where are you at with this?
That's a great question.
Okay.
Because what I was testing last week is all of the core functionality, which is all there. Basically creating pools. And then creating the little cool liquidity for the pools, and then being a user and being able to withdraw from the pools. So you got to make sure that all the math's calculated for the way that the LP pools are set up, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have some of those functions already built in as far as like shutting the pools off and stuff. So
Right.
like basically what I need to do now is I need to create the front end for it.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be my next step because
Mhm.
all the smart contract stuff is basically done.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool part about that is that with Algoburner, that was everybody's first introduction to something that we've been working on, or something that I've been working on for a really long time, which is essentially a Algorand version of PancakeSwap.
Mm-hmm.
And for people that are familiar with PancakeSwap, what makes it really cool is that anybody can basically use PancakeSwap as a shell to create their own suite of DeFi products out of. And what makes PancakeSwap so innovative is that you have a front end, you have back end, you have smart contracts, you have an SDK, basically all that can interact with each other in a really integrated way.
Right.
Nothing like that exists on most other chains. I think Ethereum has examples of it. PancakeSwap, the BSC version is really the original.
Right.
Algoburner is essentially the pipeline headline version of that. Every little bit of that application is completely integrated with our pipeline SDK and the Algorand SDK as well, and has all the functionality to deploy smart contracts and to do swaps and everything else like that. So with the HDX and for a lot of the other applications that we're going to build, are going to be able to be built out of that shell, which visually it's going to look completely different.
Right.
But what it is, it's really a really modular React application where every little bit of it's completely integrated with all of our different Algorand functionality. So so the HDX is going to be built on top of that same shell. It'll look
Nice.
completely different, but it'll have the same robust functionality.
That's awesome. And so you're thinking, I mean, obviously you said you have to go through a bunch of audits, that takes time, but like you're thinking soon, I mean, quarter 2, 3, 4.
Oh, it won't take that long.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, my priority is to make the front end for this thing as soon as I get back to San Antonio.
Right.
So hopefully I can have that done in like 2 weeks, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
Probably 2 weeks. And then we can have a public beta for it. So we
Right.
actually minted a HDX token for people to use to experiment with this beta.
Okay.
And they'll actually have the ability to be the different roles, which will include things like, being able to shut off the pools in case of, an exploit or anything like that. Because
Right.
that security part of it is definitely going to be a piece of the beta net test as well. As well as interacting with it.
That's a good question. So you mentioned an HDX token. Now, and you've also mentioned DAOs, maybe a possible DAO governance model. Is there going to be a separate token for the DEX, or is that just going to be HDL?
It's going to be HDL. So yeah, it's really funny. Early on, people would be like, what's the utility going to be for the HDL token?
Now there's so
And
much.
what I always said was I was like, when the time comes, there will be more utility than you possibly know what to do with. And so our goal is to basically build more utility than people will ever possibly be able to use for the HDL token.
Right.
So not only will it be the ability to do governance for HDX, but it'll be essentially the way that you access Forum will be the way you access Algo Cloud. And then as we build different DeFi products, it's going to interact with those DeFi products in different interesting ways. And while we're not building a central DAO for Headline, there are people that have the HDL token will get to be part of DAO structures for different DeFi applications.
Right.
So you could actually be more modular in what you're actually interacting with the HDL tokens to be able to vote on or what you want to have more. Let's say for example, people are really into staking, but they're not really swapping. Right, then you might be more interested in having a governance role with our staking platform that we'll be building instead of just the DEX, for example, or
Right.
vice versa.
So you're also building a staking platform.
We're doing everything. Yeah, our goal is to build everything. So until we've built everything, which
You're going to keep moving.
we're going to keep building.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to keep building and building and there's a great movie. It was called the Lego Movie.
Uh-huh.
There's this guy in it.
It's called the Lego
There's a
Movie.
guy in this movie called the Master Builder, and essentially his role.
His name was the Master Builder.
His name is Master Builder, and his role is to build everything.
Right. So that's you.
essentially-
You're the Master Builder.
Well, I like
for
to
the
think
Lego
of
Movie.
Headline
Yeah.
as the Master Builder.
No,
But or just generally, the Algorand ecosystem of developers
Yeah.
as the Master Builder.
I like it,
But
man.
yes.
I like it. All right. So I have to get on an airplane here soon. So I wanted to, I joked about it earlier with the whiteboard and, we talked a little bit about it. But I know that for the past couple of months, I don't know, 3 months maybe, there has been a lot of FUD and a lot of personal attacks, right? I just feel like there's been a couple of guys out there that are like really zoning in on you and trying to like coordinate something that frankly isn't really catching on, it doesn't seem. So maybe it's not even wise of me to be bringing it up. But I mean, on a personal level, how have you kind of navigated all of this? And like, what are your thoughts and like, how do you rally and just keep on like kind of tuning that out?
Right. So at first, it kind of like hit me like a bag of bricks, basically, because I never had to deal with online harassment or anything like that, and I got like really depressed for like a week and a half because like. So most of my team works remote, and I live by myself, which means that when I'm working 18 hours a day, the only like human interaction I'm having is usually with either our community or on social media.
Yeah.
And when everybody's positive and everybody's encouraging, that can be really motivational to keep working, right? But when you go on social media and you're getting these really personal attacks thrown at you, it can be really devastating when that's your only human interaction within like a certain period of time. And not only that, but I don't know if it's just me or everybody, but it's really easy to dwell on negative personal attacks for some reason, even if they're completely unfounded.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, everybody does that. It's the negative comment that everybody focuses on.
I never understood why people would like quit social media because of social media harassment or anything like that until after this happened, and I was like seriously tempted to like, shut all of it down. But then I decided that I was like, honestly, the best thing for me to do is to just like block the people that are that are responsible for this, because and then block anybody associated with them, to basically like kind of like there's a saying, don't feed the trolls, right? Because it's like there's certain people where they're really only interested in getting a reaction out of people, right? So giving them any kind of reaction, you're essentially feeding the trolls, and you're actually encouraging them. Right. So by basically cutting off their oxygen, that's really the best way to handle it. Not only that, but I think that people have short attention spans, and eventually they're going to get bored, right? Because no matter how obsessed with us any of these people are, eventually they're going to get bored, and they're going to move on to something more interesting or exciting for them to.
When they're not getting the reaction that they were hoping for.
I mean, exactly. Not only that, but I didn't find this out until recently. But I actually have a theory about why they did it.
Okay, I've been wondering why.
I have a theory. Okay. So there's a fantastic new show on Hulu called The Dropout. And it's about that girl in California that created that medical device company. Yeah. Amanda Seyfried. I would be surprised if she does not win a Golden Globe for this role.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Why can't I remember the name of the company?
The house down. The Theranos.
Theranos, that's right.
So the girl
Elizabeth Holmes.
Elizabeth Holmes created Theranos, a medical supply company, and it was a ridiculously overblown scam. Right. So she basically had no experience with medical supply development. She wanted to build this device that was absolutely impossible to build. Yeah. And every time all of these engineers told her it was impossible, she said that it was possible. Yeah. But then she kept like getting these people to give her tons and tons of money, and she scaled this like basically scam business into this giant thing, even though nobody had ever seen a working product, and they actually like faked their tests and they faked all this stuff. Yeah. And as I was watching this, I was like, oh my God, these people were probably watching this show since episode 1. And they're like, wait a second.
Yeah, this is
we have our own Theranos.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, it's completely unfounded because, not only do we have all the tech to back up the work that we're doing,
and you have working things that are live.
Not only that, exactly. Everything, we're super transparent about everything.
And that's what I always found kind of weird. It's like, people are like, I'm just like, we've talked 3 times, like you've been so transparent and, from my personal, so I was like, okay, this is all BS, but like,
Yeah, they wanted to be Boy Scouts, I think, and they saw the show and they're like, oh,
this might be it.
This might be my moment to, put on my Sherlock Holmes hat and do some Boy Scouting. But they could have probably projected that in a direction that made more sense. Yeah. Because
like Loudfire or something. They could have gone after.
We don't like to say anything negative about other Algorand projects, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't have blonde hair anymore. I used to.
You used to have blonde hair?
Yeah, I don't wear turtlenecks. Used to.
Well, thank God for that. That you stopped wearing turtlenecks. Yeah.
I did a semester in Italy. They have turtlenecks were in at the time,
I
so
get it,
I got a few of them.
Well, it makes you look like important on some level, I think. I mean, and douchey, but I mean, mainly.
Well, I
important.
mean, this was back in the hipster days, so
Yeah,
it's
no,
more
I
like a
get
hipster thing.
That's cool. And, like,
I put turtlenecks behind me though.
That's okay. I
So-
think that was a good idea. But you used to dye your hair blonde.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had blonde hair and a mustache. It was epic. It was a whole thing.
I like that.
But if I still had the blonde hair, I could understand a little bit of the FUD potentially because it was pretty extreme look.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, so you're just saying that you would look more like a scam artist?
No, look more like Elizabeth Holmes.
Oh, I see.
She had blonde hair and turtlenecks.
Well, and then
That
there
was
also
her
was
whole
like, I mean, so you had an LLC and like you.
I still do. Okay, so that's one thing exactly. The funny thing about me is that there's so much history you can find online. It's actually pretty interesting to see the path that we've taken.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any experience with coding before last year. I didn't get a degree in computer programming. I got a degree in English at the University of Texas in San Antonio, right? So my background was in the financial services industry. I have an insurance brokerage here in Texas to do, we do life and health insurance, but we can also do, I'm also, or was a licensed insurance agent in all 50 states to be able to do like home and auto and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
But but once I started Headline, I kind of like, didn't actively do that stuff anymore because I was like, this is what I'm super passionate about.
Right.
It's all the company though, and the company has great business credit, so I use it for different stuff. So for example, there's different reasons why people use multiple companies when they're doing, so I still use my other company to do a lot of the financial stuff for Headline. So like different accounts that we have with different like institutional partners or enterprise partners or things like that still go through my other company because it's great to be able to have access to great business credit, and it's all kind of integrated, and it's all they're both my companies, so it's the same thing. But it's not. So like I think people are like, oh, he has a shell company. I'm like, no, it's just there's lots of practical reasons people use multiple companies. But it's all super transparent. I pay all my taxes in the state of Texas. Both my companies are based in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Like you hear a lot about people setting up their companies like, overseas or in different states. I'm like, no, we believe in paying taxes. We're tax-paying Texans. So like, we're super transparent about everything. I've got great like bookkeeping partners as well because we keep really, really good books about all of our transactions, including our on-chain transactions. We run our company by the books from start to finish, and I try to be super transparent about everything. The one reason I think that people could get kind of confused was because Algo Explorer has never updated our bio since we first created the token. And the mission has grown so much, and like Headline Inc. didn't exist when we made the HDL token.
Right.
So on Algo Explorer, it actually says, like built by Iron Oak Holdings, which is my financial services company's name. Yeah. And I think I actually emailed them like a month or two ago to update it with all of our new info with Headline Inc. and everything, and our mission statement and everything that we're building now, but it hasn't been updated. So if people's first interaction with us is to go there, it might be really confusing to put all the different threads together. Yeah. As we continue to grow the company, we'd like to hire somebody just to kind of like organize all of this information in a really like robust central way for people to be able to clearly understand the trajectory that the company's taken and how all of the different pieces are come into play for how the company operates and everything.
Right. And then also the HDL asset ID, it starts with a 1. You're one of the few ASAs that have been around and stuck around for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're one of the last.
We're one of the last.
Yeah. Planets has been around forever though. So
what's that?
Planets.
The
Arc has been around.
But Arc is done.
Day one. I have no idea. So I know that they're like pivoting to play to earn, and they're building decks. Yeah. They have WagMe Swap. They have a couple pools on that already. Yeah. I don't know if they're making a new token or if they're going to be using the same ARC token for it.
Got it.
It'd be interesting to see how they handle that transition if they do decide to go for a new token. Let's hope he has another 1 token. Yeah. To make the new token instead of having to go for I think they're around 5 or 6. Right. But that's how old Headline is. Headline's been around on Algorand since before there was DeFi or NFTs or DEXs or TL5 smart contracts or anything. We've been around since we're old school.
So the moral of the story is that you're not like some secret government plant or something, right? You don't work for the CIA, or you're not trying to this isn't Like, wasn't that insinuated in some way?
I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
I said, we blocked everybody. So
Yeah.
as far as what the actual attacks were, I didn't actually hear most of them.
Right.
Other than what people told me. One fantastic attack I did hear
Okay.
was that one of the people found a website that I had created a couple of years ago. That for my other company that I spent like an hour on. It was like a WordPress template that it was like one of the days in the original COVID lockup.
Mm-hmm.
I had like basically created a template for a website. Spent 2 hours trying to fill out some different pieces on it with it had like stock pictures from like the website builder. So when you use WordPress and you have website builders, you have like stock content to kind of see how to structure your website.
Yeah.
Most of that stock content was still on the website. I forgot to delete the website. So like somebody was like, I think they were like trying to research my other company, found this like stock WordPress website and thought that it was like what we were directing people to learn about the company or something. I started cracking up when I found this out because I was like, oh, that's so funny because that was like a 2-hour experiment like two or 3 years ago.
Oh
like
my
that
God.
created that. I was like, oh, that's funny.
That is funny.
But you know, that's
So I
the
mean,
internet.
everybody's
That's
always
internet for
the
you.
internet. They got to put it together and they got to
Yeah.
find their narrative.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, enough of that. All right, Aaron. Well, thank you so much for having me at South by Southwest. Unfortunately, I'm leaving. You guys are sticking around for the next few days. You're going to do the Reach Summit. You're going to go home. You're going to finish this Dex, and it's all going to keep on going, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We never stop building. We
Can't
keep
stop.
grinding.
Yeah, and I mean, it is true that when we first started, when I first started interviewing you, I think the first time I was like, well, what does the HDL token, like, what is the use case? I mean, I'm sure I asked you that. And you said there's going to be more and more, but now it does seem like that use case keeps on growing and growing. There's only 21 million of them, right?
25.
25 million of
Yep.
them, that's right. And so, there's not a lot. There's not a lot, and there's a lot of use,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
And
you're
not only
growing them.
that, but we have great tokenomics. We have a 3-year vesting plan to completely vest the token.
Right.
Of it right now, I think it's already almost 50% in circulation within the community, and yeah, we have a plan to fully vest it over the next 3 years as well. So you
Cool.
talk about solid tokenomics to back up everything else we're doing. Yeah, we're in great shape.
Awesome. All right. We can actually shake hands. We're in person.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
it's been great.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
All right, guys.